Hi everyone, Miss Sarah here. Today we're going to start off with lesson 3, evaluating expressions. All right, so let's just remember, what is an algebraic expression? And an algebraic expression is a mathematical expression that contains one or more variables, right? So it doesn't contain only numbers, it also contains variables. Whenever I ask you to evaluate an algebraic expression, what I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to have an expression, for example, 3x plus 2, and I'm going to ask you to evaluate this expression for x equals, for example, -2. In this case, what you have to do is very simple. All you have to do is you have to substitute -2 wherever there's an x. To evaluate, you're going to have to substitute the variables with their given values and then follow the order of operations. Order of operations. Remember that whenever you are plugging this in, one big tip is always rewrite this expression, and wherever there's a variable, you put in empty parentheses, and inside this empty parentheses, you're going to throw in the value that was given for your variable. Okay, this is just a tip for us to start working on evaluating algebraic expressions. So let's start off with example number 1. In example number 1, I have 7x minus 2y, and I ask you to evaluate each expression using the variable replacements. So I want you to evaluate 7x minus 2y if x is equal to 4 and y is equal to 3. So let's go ahead and do that. It's pretty simple. Wherever there was a 4, whenever there was an x, I'm going to plug in 4. And wherever there was a y, I'm going to plug in a 3. Whenever I'm doing that, I want you guys to be super careful with your parentheses. Always, always, always put parentheses around your variables. So this is going to be 7 times x. Instead of writing x, I'm going to write an open parentheses minus 2 times y, and I'm also going to write an open parentheses. Now inside these parentheses, I'm going to put the corresponding x and y values. So x would be 4 and y would be 3. Now you guys can see that I had an algebraic expression which turned into a numerical expression. And we can solve a numerical expression using the order of operations. Order of operations tells me I have to do multiplication before I do subtraction, so that's what I'm going to do first. 7 times 4, 28, minus 2 times 3, which is 6. Now I can subtract 28 minus 6, which gives me 22. Let's move on to question number 2. Question number 2, I have the expression a squared plus 2b, and I want you to evaluate this expression if a equals 4 and b equals 5. Once again, I'm going to copy this expression, but wherever there's a variable, I'm going to put a parentheses. So instead of writing a, I'm going to write a parentheses, and pay attention to this part. The squared goes outside my parentheses, plus 2 times my variable b, which I'm also going to put in empty parentheses. Now what am I going to throw into these parentheses? Into this one, I'm going to throw the value of a, which is 4. Into this one, I'm going to throw the value of b, which is 5. So this is going to be 4 squared plus 2 times 5. According to PEMDAS, the first thing I should do is exponents. Well, it's parentheses, but do you guys see that these parentheses, they don't have any operation inside the parentheses? So I can skip to exponents, which is 4 squared. 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16, plus 2 times 5. Next operation I should do is multiplication, 2 times 5. This is going to be 16 plus 10, which gives me 26. Number 3. Number 3, we have negative 8 minus b in parentheses plus 6c. And I want you to evaluate it if b equals negative 5 and c equals 2. So what I'm going to do is pay close attention. Once again, I'm going to substitute my variable. See, I copied everything exactly. Parentheses, parentheses, negative, negative, 8, 8, negative, negative. Now, wherever there was a variable, I'm going to open up a parentheses. Be very, very, very careful with this, because these parentheses over here are related to my variable. I still have to close this outer parentheses over here. So this outer parentheses is over here, and this inner parentheses is where my variable used to be. Plus, oops, should be in red, plus 6 times c, which is my variable. Open my parentheses. Now I'm going to throw these values into my parentheses. So over here I'm going to have b equals negative 5, plugging it in here, and c equals 2, plugging it in here. All right, now I can start solving using PEMDAS. So PEMDAS tells me to do parentheses first. Looking at this parentheses, you see there are no operations inside the parentheses, so I'm going to leave it the way it is right now. And we're going to do this operation over here. We have a negative 8 minus a negative 5. Remember, a minus a negative becomes a positive. So this is going to be negative 8 plus 5 plus 6 times 2. Continuing the operations inside my parentheses, once again I copied everything else. Negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3. I only have one value, so I'm not going to write my parentheses anymore. And over here I have 6 times 2, which is 12, plus 12. Negative 3 plus 12 gives me 9. Moving on to number 4. Number 4, same thing over here. I have a parentheses negative m squared. Notice that the squared is outside my parentheses. This means I'm squaring everything inside, minus 2m. So once again, I'm going to use a different color for these outer parentheses over here. And then this is going to be negative m. And m I'm going to write in parentheses, squared, outside, minus 2 times empty parentheses. Now I'm going to get this m equals 6, and notice that I have m appears twice over here, and that's okay. That means I'm going to have to put 6 twice into my expression. So I'm going to throw the 6 into my open parentheses. Once I do that, be careful. I have to solve what's inside my parentheses before I square it. I have a negative outside times a 6. This is simply going to give me a negative 6. All of this squared minus 2 times 6, which is 12. Okay? Negative 6 squared, people. Negative 6 squared is negative 6 times negative 6. A negative times a negative is a positive. 6 times 6 is going to give me positive 36 minus 12, which is going to give me 24. Moving on to number 5. Number 5, I have 1/2 times parentheses r plus 7. How am I going to do this? So 1/2 parentheses r plus 7. I'm already going to throw these values in because they don't have any negatives. That's going to be okay. If you want to use the parentheses method, you can. 19 plus 7. 19 plus 7, this is going to give me 1/2 and 26 inside my parentheses. Now what I have to do is I have to multiply 1/2 times 26. And how am I going to do this? Well, I have to remember that I have to write 26 as a fraction. How can I write a whole number as a fraction? I have to put it over 1. Once I do that, I'm going to have 1/2 times 26 over 1. And this is very simple because all you have to do when you're multiplying fractions is to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. 1 times 26 is 26 over 2 times 1, which is 2. And this is going to give me 26 divided by 2, which is 13. In number 6, I have 2x plus parentheses negative 4 close parentheses times y. And I want to substitute x equals negative 4 and y equals negative 2. Now I have negative numbers. I'm going to go back to the parentheses method. 2 times x, but instead of writing x, I'm going to write an open parentheses, plus negative 4 times y, and instead of writing y, I'm also going to write an open parentheses. And over here I have x equals negative 4 and y equals negative 2, so I can go ahead and solve that. This is going to give me 2 times negative 4, negative 8. And over here, I'm going to have plus negative 4 times negative 2. A negative times a negative gives you a positive. 4 times 2 gives me 8. Negative 8 plus 8 gives me 0. Number 7, you're going to have 2r cubed plus r squared if r equals 6. Once again, I have the same variable. That's okay. That means I'm going to have to plug in 6 wherever there appears the letter r. This is going to be 2 times the variable cubed plus the variable squared. And I'm going to throw in 6 for my variable, which is the given value over here. If I do that, PEMDAS tells me, what do I do first? 2 times 6 or 6 cubed? I should do exponents first. 6 cubed is 6 times 6 times 6, which if you do that, 6 times 6, 36. 36 times 6 is going to give me 216. This is going to be 2 times 216 plus 6 squared, which is 36. 216 times 2 gives me 432 plus 36. If I do the addition, I get 468. Number 8, also a tricky question because we're going to plug in negative numbers. This is going to be 3 times a, which is going to be my parentheses squared, minus a times b. Now be careful to make sure that you're throwing in the right thing. So a is negative 4, and a appears here and here, so it has to go in here and here. On the other hand, b is negative 3, and it appears over here, so this is where you're going to plug in negative 3. Be very careful so you plug in the right things. So plugging in negative 4, and negative 3. Now all we have to do is PEMDAS. What am I going to do first? I'm going to do exponents first. Negative 4 squared is negative 4 times a negative 4, which is going to give me a positive 16, minus negative 4 times a negative 3. A negative times a negative is going to give me a positive, and 4 times 3 is going to give me 12. So this is going to be plus 12. Now I can do my multiplication. 3 times 16 is going to give me 48. Minus a positive 12, a minus and a plus gives me a minus 12 over here. 48 minus 12 gives me 30.